Dun dun dun.
Dun
I
dun
gotta.
dun.
Nothing's really important, but per the usual. Well, not even per the usual. For many of the other times, many of the moments we kind of talked about it without talking about it, like indirectly mentioning the Fantastic Four, just to never speak about them.
Just never speak about them.
Uh, yeah, just to never speak about them. This is the moment to actually speak about them,
Yeah,
which
I
is
mean,
weird.
the Fantastic Four have kind of been like our Thanos, where they just keep getting mentioned at the end of every single little thing. If you go back and listen to every single episode of the show that we've done, we mention Fantastic Four as this kind of like looming presence.
Yeah,
And
I
as
want it to
soon,
last much longer.
I don't know that, I mean, like that trailer came out and, well, okay, so, and this is so funny because you and I were just talking about this before we pressed record, that the last episode that we did isn't even out yet. And in that one, we were like, are we going to talk about Fantastic Four? And I was like, we'll do it after the trailer. And then they released a trailer like a week earlier than they said they might. And
Yeah,
lo and behold, I was like, you know what? We got to do it. We have to talk about it.
yeah. It was funny because the day before they did like a little teaser to
Yeah.
prep the teaser, which was weird,
Yeah.
and I guess they did some small event too,
Yeah.
which I did not watch. I saw the small teaser because I was like, oh, Fantastic Four, and then it was just like trailer tomorrow. I was like,
Yeah, it was like nothing. Like
yeah,
once I realized what I was looking at, I was kind of just like, oh, okay. I'm excited for the trailer. I didn't like even give it a second watch.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
which was,
but the trailer itself, I've given many watch,
uh,
obsessively.
it's only a minute and 29 seconds, but I have
It's
definitely
packed. It's a packed
watched.
trailer.
It is.
I think when I look back on, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, as far as teaser trailers go, it's pretty robust. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The whole thing is a minute and 38, but like in it, like you said, there is a lot going on and there's a lot that is happening. I wish I could say I went and read other people's um perspectives on it. And
Uh-huh.
because I've seen a couple like what you might be missing and other things being like there was Morse code in the pre-teaser or something like that.
Really
And just to say radiation. But
interesting.
there was not much that I
Yes, there is radiation.
wanted to look at only because typically when it comes to specifically Marvel movies, there's like all these
Speculations.
very wild
Mephisto hits,
speculation. Yeah.
right?
And wild speculations, but then there's also, cause I'm not going to say like, I'm not going to have a wild speculation. What
We
I believe
have
is a wild
our,
speculation.
we
Yeah.
wouldn't be talking if we didn't have wild speculations.
Yeah. But it's also not as, like I feel there's bits of it where some of these things are kind of getting like actual leaks to stuff. And then there's a lot of just out, outlandish hopes on certain things. And it's okay, it's cool, but I kind of just don't want to see all of that all the time. You know,
Yeah.
keep my I keep my mind focused and short on like what they have.
Well, I think that like you and I have expressed this in the past and obviously of late that, you know, we're kind of waiting to be impressed and not being impressed at the gate anymore
Yeah,
with stuff like this, just because track record precedes itself. And, um, yeah, I think it's difficult to be impressed with stuff now. That being said, I really liked the trailer. I
okay,
really did. I really dug it. I really like Matt Shackman. Obviously WandaVision, is
yeah,
what he's known for in the MCU space, and that has such a distinct aesthetic. And I think with WandaVision, what went awry was, I think, the writing, um, at least towards the end of the show. I think that like the writing is what
Yeah,
suffered the most. And I think that COVID affected the writing and it affected the production schedule and everything like that. But with that in mind, um, yeah, I think that his directorial eye is really good.
right.
And based off of what I've seen in the trailer, and I remember at concept, right, when we first kind of heard that it was going to be taking place in the 60s and was going to have that, 60s aesthetic,
Yeah,
um, I was excited at that. And I definitely think that it shows really well in the trailer. And I think that's the perfect way. I'm always worried about stuff, like how they're gonna, when I hear concepts, even at concept, like even when you hear like the pitch of a show or a movie, especially in the MCU, you're kind of like, oh, yeah, that's not, I don't know if that's my thing, or I don't know if they're doing it right or thinking it right, but I think that that concept for the Fantastic Four works really well.
yeah, it does, and especially out of everything that's been going on and all the other stories that they've had, and
Yeah.
trying to make it be something. This is a nice start because it's very different from the other ones, at least time wise.
Hmm.
Outside of Captain America.
Yeah.
But also doing it this way, it leads to getting the origin without getting the origin story
Yeah.
with that separation. So it's that's nice. I like the aesthetic of it too because it looked good. Um, there was just certain things that kind of caught my attention, and one of them didn't catch my attention off the jump, but when I was talking to Lo about it, our friend about it, she was talking about how she doesn't like Ben Grimm's voice because he doesn't sound like he's from New York and whatnot, but just the sound of his voice. I was like, I'm not too sure yet, but I could kind of see, especially like going back and watching it, I could kind of see what she was talking about when it came to Ben Grimm's
Okay.
voice. I guess people are used to the raspiness, and
The
mainly him,
chicklets. People
yeah,
want the
and
chicklets.
him sounding like he's from New York also.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I'm not sure because I still think that there might be, you have to hear more dialogue from him
Yeah. I
to
think I
really
think for sure
hear
he
what's
only
what's on
has he
those.
only has like what, two lines in that trailer,
Yeah, yeah, she
right?
lines.
And Ibn Moss, like I was ecstatic at that casting. I really was.
Yeah,
And I think that I think his performance is the one that I'm most excited for.
yeah.
Um,
He by far the best looking Ben Grimm too.
oh well, yeah, character design alone, I've seen some discourse online, but I'm at that point now where I don't really engage with that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't let any of that affect me because I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh hell yeah. You know what I mean? He's got that Kirby look. He's got that like really pronounced brow. It looks so good. And like the dimensions of him look really good. Like I think that
Yeah,
if you're
it
gonna go
does.
CGI, um, you got to give him a good silhouette. You got to give him a good look. And I think that from what I've seen, it looks like the thing. It doesn't look like a thing like the 2015 movie,
Oh God.
right?
Ah, that was so awful.
He looks like,
That decision was so bad.
I know, especially making him naked is probably the most insane choice ever.
Yeah, we're
Um,
not gonna have him wear pants, man. All right, cool, guys.
but as far as the voice goes, that's interesting because you're right. He doesn't have like that, a distinct kind of like New Yorker, like I would not distinct, but like exaggerated New Yorker accent that we've seen him depicted as having in media in the past. Um,
Or even in the writing too.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he's sound. Ibn Ross. I don't know. Ibn Ross. I don't know if he is from New York. Um,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know where he's from, but if you listen to him speak in The Bear, right? He nails that Chicago accent really well and like does it throughout the whole show. And he just is that character, right? He's that
Right.
Chicagoan, right? And I think that if he has some sort of like, I don't know, I think that the dialect, I mean, I'm excited for that. I think we're going to hear more of it in certain parts. I think it's a little too early to tell. I think that
Yeah.
that clip was maybe not the best sampling. I think it was mostly
Yeah.
to show him off. The review is seeing him, you know what I mean, and kind of seeing him in motion and hearing the voice, at least hearing him talk. I really liked it.
Yeah,
We'll have to see.
and I agree. I do think it's kind of early for it now at this point in time.
Yeah.
But seeing him, it was dope to see him. It was good. Looked fantastic. Even the small
Wait,
bit that you
say that
saw.
again.
Don't do
I was
don't do
waiting.
that from
I was
Fantastic
waiting.
Four one.
I was waiting. I was like, you know what? As soon as someone,
Ah,
if you say that word, I'm going to do it. Thank you.
I I feel so bad because that's like I didn't even think and I did it. And the other thing, as soon as you said say that again, it made me think of the end of that Fantastic Four movie from
That's
2015.
that's what I'm
Yeah, that's what,
referencing. That's what
yeah,
I'm. Hey,
so
say that
so
again.
bad. I couldn't, oh God, so
Say that
awful.
again. You know what? And
There's,
speaking of
yeah,
voices, I think that like the Sting's voice in that movie was so bad because like he doesn't even have like a New Yorker accent in that. It almost sounds like I don't remember the actor who plays the Thing in that movie. He's very forgettable.
yeah,
But, like his accent is almost like he's trying to stifle a British one, and I have no idea to like confirm or deny that. But like that clip, which I hear all the time, where he's like, "It's fantastic." I'm like, what accent are you doing? It sounds like you're hiding something with that accent. But whatever. Thank you for letting
well,
me do
yeah, yeah, terrible. Now I gotta be super cognizant of not to say that word,
it.
not to say that phrase again. But even a little bit of seeing Johnny was pretty cool. And it was funny because the introduction of when they first showed Johnny and he's leaning sideways off a chair backwards with that space helmet on
Mhm.
is just to give the idea of who Johnny is. Like
Yeah,
Johnny's the fun loving, non-serious character.
yeah.
And I think like with that small capturing it like that with the introduction from the trailer was good. It was a smart move and it does kind of subconsciously put that difference between Johnny and all of them and all the personalities when you first see them. It builds that
100%.
up.
100%. I actually, his casting was probably the one I was least kind of like excited for, Joseph Quinn. But
Yeah.
seeing him in action, even with the brief clips, I honestly think that he's gonna do. He looks good. It looks the whole like I think the design of the film really lends him to that. Like he kind of looks like he kind of has. I don't think he is looks like this person, but the way that he's dressed and the way he's styled definitely gives like a Steve McQueen kind of look to him, which I
Yeah.
think makes sense for like the playboy of the Fantastic Four, right? Like like the fun one. So I think that really works.
Yeah.
I don't think we've talked. What do you think about my boy?
Pascal, Pedro.
Yeah.
I go to him last because I do have very specific things
Oh,
about
well,
what he did.
let's talk about Vanessa then. Let's talk about Vanessa Kirby. I
So,
have
so
no opinion about Vanessa Kirby because I haven't seen her in anything, but I think she looks good.
I I love Vanessa Kirby. I love
Okay.
Vanessa Kirby because I've watched her in Hobbs and Shaw, Mission Impossible.
Is she Shaw's sister?
Yep, she was Shaw's
Okay.
sister.
I haven't seen that either, but I know
Uh,
that. Okay.
yeah, it was interesting. Last two last two Mission Impossible movies, she's been in it. Is it two or three? But she's been in Mission Impossible. Loved her in that. She's been great.
Okay.
She did this movie. I want to say it was a marriage story or something like that. Um, where Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, yeah, it was a marriage story. Nope, it wasn't a marriage story. That was the other one.
That's
That
the one
was
with
different.
Scarlett and Adam Driver.
Yeah, the one where he was being mean to hell with.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, but she did this other movie with Shia LaBeouf that was kind of like that. Pieces of a Woman. And that's about her
Okay.
having like going through a miscarriage and whatnot. So
Oh,
I think she's a really good actress. She can really act. So I do love seeing her in this. I think she's going to do very well as Sue Storm. Um, she looks the part. At least for me, she looks the part.
I think so too.
People keep
I think
going, yeah,
I think that with Sue Storm, I'm not really beholden to any sort of like casting choice for someone like that.
yeah,
And that might just because I think that like for her, I think her look is kind of innocuous if you take it from the comics. I think it's all about how you act her. Actually, no, you know what? I was thinking about this. What makes a good Sue Storm is how well she's written.
yes,
And I think that uh, in the two past film adaptations of Fantastic Four, I think that she wasn't written necessarily very well. And I think that that shows. And like, I think that those first Fantastic Four movies are really fun. I was pretty young when they came out. I think the
yeah,
casting is insane. I think
very much.
obviously, I think Jessica Alba did exactly what they wanted Jessica Alba to do in those two films, and but they didn't give her much to do. And then I was
No,
excited for Kate Mara in the 2015 one.
2015. Yeah,
Yeah, because I like Kate Mara. I think that she kind of has a sternness to her that would have been good, like a good rendition for Sue, especially if they were
yeah,
younger. Because that was the whole thing, right? They were all supposed to be young. And so I was like, oh, okay. I
yeah.
can see her as kind of being like kind of like a little stern. And then, yeah, the writing for her was just so bad in that as well,
Not
too.
good.
And she wasn't
Well,
even
and
blonde.
they,
They made her blonde. That was the most insane thing in
bro,
that movie. The Cosmic
yeah,
Rays gave her a a bleach out. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
but they didn't touch nobody else's hair
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it's such a crazy thing.
It took the
Um,
melanin out of her.
but yeah, they typically just they treat her like a
Girl.
bad character. Yeah, just
She's
we
the
don't
girl.
uh, side character. She's a love interest with no story, or she's just the girl here who's no story.
Yeah.
Either way, they don't typically care too much.
And it's
So I
wrong.
think yeah, very wrong. And I think that this one they might, because they did put a little bit more focus on her in the
Yeah.
trailer,
Yeah.
which is kind of, so will lend to my theory about Pedro. Now, Pedro, cause I went back and watched it few more times and I was noticing like Reed is, I'm interested in seeing him as Pedro as Reed. But I noticed there's like one or two times he smiles in the trailer. And it's when they're going first up into space and there's possibly like another side to it. But otherwise, he feels very detached from everything, even from like the tone of his voice
Right. It's
to
kind of
how he's speaking
monotone.
about things. Yeah. And
He has like a
it's
certain
very,
monotoneness. Yeah. Which isn't bad. And I think it's
no,
lending
no, no.
yourself to a theory, right?
Yeah. To him being a maker and like
Right.
he's super detached. He feels detached from everything, but he also feels like there's a point in it where he's talking about the family. They're kind of showcasing everybody with their powers.
Yeah.
And he sounds like he's coming from a place of guilt.
Yeah.
He sounds like he's coming from a place of guilt, about everybody, even though Sue like tries to comfort him.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that at the end of the trailer, because they have this conversation, and I think it's been pieced together from the way that it sounds and the way that it's shown. piece together to wrap up with the end with Sue saying, we'll do this as family.
Right.
But her, her crying and going through like so something's happening and making her say
Right.
this family thing type of thing. But yeah, I don't even think it's like we'll fully see it in this movie. I think it's going to be a build. With him being that type of way and sounding like that and like kind of even his look, like he looks like he doesn't give a fuck about anything when he's talking about stuff. Cause even when he's like, we have dinner here for 7 p.m. on the dot all the time. Like if you like look at his face, look at his eyes, it's like dead behind the eyes.
Right.
And I think this did because it also lends to uh, the aspect of Secret Wars and the Doomsday coming after it and bringing them into the new world. I think a lot of the story could possibly set up has good foundation to make him a villain, and it would be a big change for MCU in the whole, and it would
Yeah.
change in like the most positive way as well, because it'll give something that people can talk about. It'll be very interesting, and I think Pedro also has that dynamic to do something like that.
Yeah. I think so too. I kind of see what you mean, and I'm really curious. And he's actually, I think, it's like him. I would say that Sue and Ben are showcased the most in the trailer, and I
Yeah,
think that that's very interesting. I think that they've haven't shown anything with Reed showcasing his powers at all. Like there's no stretch.
yeah,
Sorry. Um, and then there's this very little Johnny because I think that he's kind of if you're going to cast someone or if you're going to put someone kind of like on the back burner of the story of the Fantastic Four, Johnny's usually the one to do it. Just because I think he has the least amount of kind of like interiority and the least amount of like compelling story to tell, especially if you have a
yeah,
limited amount of time. It's like, okay, we gotta show, Reed and Sue's dynamic. We have to show Ben's dynamic with the world and with the rest of the family. You need to see, like those are kind of like the big ones. And they're
yeah.
definitely I think the ones that drive the story more. Johnny's kind of, he's the comedic relief, right? He's the one that kind of like
True.
gets rid of some of that tension without it being like more of a drama. I think, so I think that there's a reason why you don't see as much as him, but I think with Reed it's very interesting, and I think that there are like reveals that they really don't want to show. I do
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that this is tying in, obviously, like this takes place in an alternate universe, alternate
correct.
dimension. There's little inklings throughout the trailer that imply that he's, studying multiverses and stuff like that, right? So it
Yeah,
and Reed's character is so indelibly tied to the multiverse, right? And I think that it would have been more tied to the multiverse if we knew what was happening, if anything, with the killing of it all, because they have so much ties, and I
yeah,
don't think that's happening the way that it's happening anymore, uh, which is a shame because we got kind of like the Council of Kangs and Loki, and that definitely laid the groundwork for a potential Council of Reeds, which we still can get, but it definitely feels like two different sandwiches instead of one that we
yeah,
potentially got.
yeah. It's very because that would have been interesting to see that dynamic because also like we spoke about before, they wasted King and Quantumanium,
Yeah,
but Loki was a better look, and I would have enjoyed to see them both have great written stories
yeah,
together to see like their dynamic and how they would play out together, especially with Kang and I mean with He Who Remains talking about his ancestor being Nathan Reed
yeah,
and it going into that timeline and figuring. like what that would have been like.
I
So
love
yeah,
that too
some
because the implication that Reed Richards has like Egyptian descent. Well, no, because Kang's not Egyptian anymore in the MCU. He's like from the what? Like he's from the last
something.
couple hundred years. Like he's not from that long ago, um,
Yeah.
as he is in the comics, where he's like literally like an ancient Egyptian. But it's still kind of funny because I'm like, I love this degree of separation. That Ancestry.com is wild. I would have loved to see it. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot there. They did a really good job of hiding a lot of stuff. They didn't hide the back of certain someone's helmet, and I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was going to be a later reveal. Um, I'm really excited. He's not a big smoke cloud. He's
God, right.
And then I already forgot the actor's name, but he is going to be played by the guy that's in all of the Robert Eggers movies. Um, he was in The Witch. He was
Okay.
in Nosferatu. He was in The First Omen. He had a very
He
distinct
it
voice.
it is Ralph Ensign. I
Yes,
believe that's how you say his last name, Ensign. Yeah,
really good
Ralph
choice.
Ensign.
And I did hear in some sort of interview or some sort of article where they had mentioned that his face will be modeled after him. So I think that'd be cool.
That's very
If I can,
typical of now type of things too as
right.
well.
But I think
Yeah.
that he has a very distinct look. It's not like what's his face is MODOK, where it's kind of like
Oh
shouldn't
God.
have made his face, should have just made a CGI face that doesn't look anything like
That was so
him.
bad. So very bad. The choice, everything about it. And I don't blame the effects team. I think that was a production thing. And then also when you try
Yeah,
to rush your effects people,
yeah.
God, just let people work.
Let people work. Pay your artists.
Pay
Um,
artists and let them work, man.
give them ample time to do so.
Yeah,
Um,
but
You know, it's funny actually. I just finished watching Girls. Um, this like I think we just finished like a month or so ago,
okay.
and Eva Moss is in that as a love interest. The actor who I already forgot who played Darren Cross, and then Modoc was in that as well too. And of course, there's one other love interest on that show, probably the most highest profile actor in that show, who unfortunately his name is not tied to this project even a little bit. Ben, do you know who I'm talking about?
And girls, you're talking about the one that I was campaigning for such a long time,
Yeah.
Adam Driver.
Yeah.
There's still hope that he will be Doctor Doom. There's
Yeah,
still hope that he,
well,
he could be a version of Doctor Doom.
I'm delusional, and I am holding on to the hope that anyone else will be due, uh, besides who they've announced. So yeah, I
God.
hope you're right. I I usually hope that you're right. But this thing, which has kind of been a running joke between just you, not even between you and I, it's a running joke that you've just told for years
Yeah.
based off of nothing,
Nothing.
just
Nothing at all.
based on just like it was revealed to you in a dream is what this is based off of. You were plagued with a vision of
Uh,
Adam Driver being doomed, which I think would have been fantastic casting. Oh God, I said
you remember?
it.
Ah, you
Damn it.
did. You did. Yeah. Say it again. Uh, you do remember when we had that moment where it came very close, where they're
He got
like,
thrown in
this,
the mix for the potential people.
yeah,
And it was kind of like
um,
I can't remember if I texted you if we were working together in the same room, but it was one of the things where I'm like, holy shit, Ben is a soothsayer.
yes.
Well,
And I
I
was
think it
just
makes sense.
so
I think he
close. I
would
was like,
have.
right there, I was like, he would have been great.
I think he has the look. Sorry, there's a
And
tail in
I
the.
think could have also like stayed in like the mask thing. I think he would have been fine with maybe having those little beginning origins without and then being
Yeah,
in the mask and then just being in the mask. I think he would have been being able to work that and then shine through also like acting with having the mask on.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he would have been really good. Unfortunately, I don't know what's going to happen because you and I haven't talked about this on the show. But, um, and so did you go to San Diego Comic Con last year when they
I
did the
did.
review? You were there?
Yeah. Yeah. I was there, but I wasn't at the
You
panel
weren't in
reveal.
Hall H, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of hard. You
No.
have to have like a ticket or like press release to get in there, right?
Hall H is ridiculously hard to get into,
Yeah,
and with it being ridiculously hard to get into, and me being petty and bitter, I'm gonna say fuck Hall H right
right.
now. That's
Also,
just
like
for the time being, you know.
when we would go to Comic Con, especially San Diego Comic Con, we didn't often have time to like
Nah,
go to these forums.
yeah,
So it's a little bit difficult. But
yeah. But
that
hold
was
on,
obviously, yeah, go ahead.
before you get to this, I just want to mention one thing because obviously this is more so of a comeback for something that's between us. And the guy who you're talking about, who's also MODOK, his name is Corey Stoll.
Okay. First of all, that's
And
right.
he also played Ernest Hemingway in Midnight in Paris.
In
Just wanted
Midnight
to say
in
that.
Paris.
Just wanted to say that.
Wow.
Just wanted to say
Respect.
that. So somehow that came up, not of
Midnight in
my doing.
Paris. Midnight in
Uh,
Paris, the reference that keeps on giving. Everyone say thank you, Woody Allen. Oh. Are we not
don't
doing
say,
that?
no, we're not
Wait,
thanking him
why?
for anything.
I'm confused. Why can't we say that?
Why can't we say, no, I don't want to thank him for anything. That doesn't
Just kidding.
sound crazy.
No. Are we watching
Uh,
is not a pro Woody Allen show. I
nope, not at all.
just
Not
like
at
in the
all.
last episode, which I don't think is the last episode in release. We have things that we're not pro.
Oh yeah,
Because last,
yeah, it's just
uh,
easily they could fuck off.
oh, that's funny though. I will
But yeah,
eventually watch the movie.
back to your Hall H revelation.
Oh, well, so before we talk about the big reveal at Hall H, I did see some stuff about the teaser that they showed for this movie then, which is different content than what they just showed in the trailer that we all got. And I've only
Okay.
seen a couple stills. It was a very different look. You got to see stuff like Galactus's eyes, a few other different things. I haven't seen the full version of it. You know, those things are like super under wraps. They're
Yeah.
leaked to all hell. If you ever do get to see a little like leak of it, it's usually from someone's hip on a phone, right? Like it's usually on someone's lap at an awkward angle. So those are never really like super conducive and I try not to watch them, but I've seen like stills of some stuff. So I do think it's interesting that we get to see a different, almost none of the same content from what I've seen.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting. But of course, the big reveal at SDCC last year was the casting for Doom in the upcoming Avengers movie Avengers Doomsday, which seems to be replacing, get out of
Kang
here,
Dynasty.
seems to be replacing Kang Dynasty. And if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, that's the one, that's supposed to be number 5 of the Avengers movie, or is that number 4? Which one was coming first? It was supposed to be Kang Dynasty and then Secret Wars, right?
I think it was Secret Wars and then King Dynasty.
Really? I thought Secret Wars was supposed to
Was
be like the big one.
it let me look it up because it was
Because I thought Kang was kind of like the
weird.
next big villain, and then Secret Wars was we have nothing, right? We have no idea. It's all speculation at the point. Is there going to be a villain?
Oh no,
We
no.
kind of thought that
So
Doom was going to be in that, right? Like we kind of thought that Doom was going to be like the end all, or maybe a mix of some characters.
yeah, because it's right now it's showing Doomsday and then Secret Wars.
Okay. So if
So
maybe they switched it around, but I thought that it was going to be Kang Dynasty as the next Avengers movie, and then it was going to be Secret Wars to kind of tie it all up, and the multiversal saga, which feels like an even longer saga than we got for the Infinity one, which is 10 years, right? The Infinity Saga was 10 years, give or take.
yeah,
And
it was 10 years. Yeah, pretty much.
if this one is supposed to be another 10 years, it already feels like it's been 10 years since 2019. So it's a little hard to see this having the same kind of like, it already feels so much longer than their first kind of like MCU arc, but we'll see. Um,
It it feels longer because the way that things are happening, it hasn't been as cohesive and as good. For instance,
that's true.
in that first like 10-year run, the movies that people collectively thought weren't good were Thor: Dark World
Yeah. This,
and what other one? There wasn't like
that
a
was kind of like
super
the first,
bunch.
I would say that was probably the first big dud. Um, you know what I mean? That was definitely the one that
Yeah,
I think people look back on. There was a couple other ones that people didn't really like, but that was definitely like they would for them it was definitely like a 4 steps forward, 1 step back, if anything. I think
yeah,
with
yeah.
the way the MCU has been post has kind of been the inverse of that, where it's definitely felt like 4 steps back, 1 step forward, but give or take,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yeah.
I just think that there's
Uh,
other things at work there. Not necessarily knocking the like direction or anything like that. Or maybe I am knocking the direction. I'm not knocking the
there,
individual projects per se.
no,
Uh, I just think that it doesn't have the same sort of vision.
no, not at all. It definitely feels like in that first 10 years they took a shot, but they had more of a plan
Yeah,
on how to carry it out. And then when they reached the success that they did, that it kind of became maybe taken for granted and that we could put out anything and do almost anything and that it will be the same success. And it clearly
yeah,
wasn't. And I think that's
yeah.
kind of like what ended up happening with that.
I think
But,
the
but
scope
yeah, that's,
was a lot better, smaller for the first 10
yeah,
years. And I think, well, we've talked about this. I hate the whole multiverse concept being the next thing that they did. I think that the reason that worked so well in the comics, especially when they did Hickman's Secret Wars or even Hickman's Fantastic Four, they had what, 50, 40 years of continuity to look back on.
yep.
And with this, they have 10 years of stuff from the MCU. And obviously they've been pulling content from other um, franchises put up by Marvel, like the Sony
Hmm.
Marvel stuff and the Fox Marvel stuff. And I think that has that's interesting, right? But I think
Yeah.
that the next thing being the multiverse feels half baked, unfortunately. And I think that
Yeah.
we've
They
seen that come to fruition.
very, very much of this, even with that supposedly being like your next steps. And then you create something like the TVA and
Hmm.
then you decide not to use them, who the TVA is directly tied to multiverse and like all that stuff, and you decide, hey, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and not one mention of the
Not one minute.
TVA.
It's
With the
crazy that
TVA came out
Deadpool and
before.
Wolverine, where the Deadpool movie was the first one to include the TVA in a film. That's
Yeah,
insane.
and they
They
had
did it
to.
right. You know what I mean? I think that they did it
Yeah,
well, but like I think that's hilarious that the
yeah,
Multiverse of
it's
Madness didn't
very,
do
very
it.
funny. Very funny
um,
that like
but speaking of
yeah.
multiverses, right? The elephant in the room. Um, the reveal has Robert Downey Jr. Uh, announced to portray Victor Von Doom, and it's very specific. It's very specific about the casting. In the casting announcement, they said Robert Downey Jr. as Victor Von Doom.
Yeah.
And everything about that and everything about it, I wouldn't even say that everything about that, but everything after has been the most frustrating thing to like cope with. And I think I forget about it, I compartmentalize it, and then I go back into it,
Hmm.
and I'm like, God, that makes me mad again. And then I'll think about it for a while, and then I'll see someone talk about it, and I'm like, oh shoot, I forget they're doing that. Damn it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
mad again. Because I've seen so many things. People be like, oh, well, in the comics, Doom was Iron Man for a little bit, or Iron Man could be a variant of Tony Stark, and I'm like, no, they say he's playing
Yeah,
Victor Von Doom. He's not playing Doctor Doom, which could be a very distinct way of them kind of wording it. Because like in the
yeah,
Ultimate Comics right now, in the current run of the Ultimate Comics, Doom is Reed, right?
yeah.
So it's like you could say, oh, he's playing Doom. He's playing Doctor Doom. He's playing Doom. And that would be ambiguous enough for you to really speculate. But with the fact that they were so specific to say that he's playing Victor Von Doom, the literal name of Doctor Doom in the comics from Latveria, the autocratic ruler of the country, I think that it's so strange. It is something that makes my blood boil. It's fan service of the most masturbatory kinds. It is just,
It very much is, and it's so it's horny, and it's just weird right now because it's like, really, guys, you're really gonna rehash this
yeah,
Robert Downey Jr. into a new character, which recently I got it verified, but I did see something more. Chris Evans was talking about
coming back.
his characters. No, not coming back. Like,
Oh,
he's
not coming.
done.
He said not coming back as Captain America though, and that's what scares me. They're gonna have him come back as Magneto, and it's gonna make me like go insane. You know what I mean?
See, if he comes back as Magnus, that'll be
No,
infuriating.
he'll come back as some other big player. He'll be, I don't know, but it's that drives me so nuts. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
that, and I think that like if this is just like something that they were doing for hype, and he's only going to be, you know, in it as one version of Doom, I think that would be cool. You know what I mean? If you wanted two
Hmm.
different versions of Doom, and for some reason RDJ comes back and plays one, why not? But with that
Right.
being the
Yeah.
main reveal, and that being the only information that we have about it, and the amount of fervor people have ran with this concept on like, other content creators, people that speculate, people that are in this community, the way they've ran with it, for one thing, has been met with, I've seen nothing but positivity for the most part, and that's insane. Um, and with the concepts that they come up with, like, I've seen stuff talking about like, are we going to see Robert Downey Jr. in this Fantastic Four movie? And I'm like, God, I hope not. Please don't do
Right.
that. And you see, if the reveal would have been he's going to be Doom in an upcoming project, and they had him play Doom in this Fantastic Four movie, which obviously takes place in an alternate universe, that would be cool. But
Yeah.
we don't know.
Having him announced as Doom for Doomsday. Yeah.
Yeah,
It is.
the Avengers movie that's
Yeah.
supposed to
And the
probably take place in the mainstream universe of the MCU.
and the issue with it is, if he doesn't die, if he doesn't die as Doom, the issue is it going into Secret Wars. And then what are they going to take with Secret Wars? Because Secret Wars is where Doom is like vitally
Doom's
important.
It's kind of like the main character of both
Yeah.
versions of that story. He was kind of like the main version of the original Secret Wars too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it becomes more so like, if we don't see him die, it's like, yeah, y'all are really putting all this investment into him being back for this character, but I don't want to see, I think Robert Downey Jr. is a good actor. I do. I will give it
I
to him.
think he's great. He's
But,
also going to be
but
like
I,
almost 70 when these movies come out. I don't want
true.
a 70-year-old Doctor Doom.
I don't. And I don't want any Doom that is in any reference to an Iron Man. I
That
want,
part
I want
too.
my, I want my Doom to wear his mask and wear his mask
And if you
when
cast
he gets it.
RDJ, you're going to see his face. And that's like the whole point of Doom.
Yeah.
You never see his face. That's kind of like his whole thing.
Hmm. And
It's
it's,
just,
it's something that is like, good. It's okay not to see these people's faces.
Yeah.
It
It
it's not going to
it
be
it
horrible.
should. It should be, right?
Yeah,
I think that it's hard to do, and that's why I think that like I've been really excited. If you want, tie back things to the Fantastic Four trailer and kind of what I've seen, it does look like we're going to see very little of Ebon Moss playing himself, not as the Thing, because they had said that the origin story in this film is going to be close to non-existent. I think we're going
yeah,
to see
which
it
is
in
good.
flashback, and I think that's perfect. So I think that means we're going to see very little screen time of him in his like human form, and it's going to be
Yeah,
mostly him rigged up.
the the only time I want to see him in his human form is when he's having that crisis
Yeah,
and he gets it reversed and deals with that just to get reversed back to the Thing.
yeah,
That's it. That's the only time I want to see him
yeah,
when it's really gonna affect him mentally and there's a problem and there's a story there. Yeah.
yeah,
Otherwise,
100%.
I don't want to see that. That's
No, you
crazy.
don't have to. So I think that like, yeah, there's way the having a character who doesn't look like a person or doesn't look, you don't see their like face in every shot, I think is important, and I don't think they're gonna do that with Robert Downey Jr.'s Victor Von Doom,
Of course,
unfortunately.
they're not gonna do it. And speaking of like these those two movies, Doomsday, Secret Wars. It also lends credence to why I think it's gonna be um Reed as Doom is because Reed as
The
the
Maker,
Maker is because his world is being destroyed.
right? And I think that's what we're
His
gonna see in this movie, this Fantastic Four movie. I
Yeah.
think their world is gonna get
You know
destroyed.
what'd be crazy? It'd be crazy if that part for Sue Storm talking about we will do this as a family is at maybe at a point at the end of the film where maybe Reed isn't there and they don't know what's going on with Reed. And
Right.
then they're like, we're still a family and we'll do this even if it's us three. Because I think Vanessa has the ability to carry, uh, the emotional strength of that team and like carry the leadership of that team for a little bit to
Yeah.
where if they want to start pulling Pedro away
Yeah.
and then over these next big movies, because I already said they're going to be involved in these next movies,
Of course.
um, pull them away and to start doing that, even if the plan eventually is to have another Pedro, like they beat another Pedro in a different time, like another Reed because of the Council Reeds or something like that.
Well, I'd
Even
love
if
for
they
them to
decide to
have,
do
yeah,
that,
I'd love for them to have another, because we didn't really talk about it, but I love Pedro. I think that he's a
yeah,
weird
of
choice for this role. I thought that he was a weird
course,
choice for the role. I'm reserving all judgment until I see it, or at least until I see more. But I think
yeah,
that the perfect out is for him to, and I think the worry that we see is that like, okay, well, he's playing Reed, kind of like one of the, if not the, but one of the main characters of the Fantastic Four franchise. So it's like,
yeah.
okay, we're just gonna, he's signing on for this huge kind of endeavor. And I don't know if I necessarily like that. Not because I don't want to see him and stuff, but just because I think that it's a weird wagon to hitch your star to in this situation. Um,
Right. Yeah.
I think that a good out for him is if he does have now to kind of be Reed in a film or two and be a very specific version of him, which could be, the Maker, an evil version of Reed. And that gives way to an opportunity to see a different one. Also, like a younger one, I thought it was weird that they were kind of doing the like age gap version of the Fantastic Four. Because I don't know, what's the age difference between Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby? Because it looks significant. Uh,
Well, Vanessa is, oh, she's 36.
she's 36. Okay.
Yep. She is 36 and Pedro is 49.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
So over
So
a
that
decade difference.
is, yep.
So like I think if like you're pulling from, and that was something that was, if not more, that was actually worse in the original rendition of the comics, I think. Well, it's hard because it was John Byrne that established that like he was her like professor in the comics, which is just because John
Ah,
Byrne loves, and this John Byrne is a, very well established prolific comic book artist and writer, but he loves an age gap in his comics, so it's kind of hard to like divorce that from that concept. But they've since
yeah,
dialed that back in the comics, and I think they're closer in age, if not the same age, or at least supposed to be. They're definitely seen as like older, like them two together as kind of like mom and dad types, right? Like
yeah,
characters in the comics aren't really allowed to age, but they always kind of seem like they're a little bit older than some of the other characters of their peerhood, right? Especially
yeah,
since they have teenage kids at one point, right?
yeah. They got the family. The way that they have to carry themselves and have to
Yeah,
like the situations they deal with is kind of more
more
on
mature.
the weird, yeah.
So it's kind of one of
So,
those things where if they wanted to bring in a younger Reed, um, that would be something that they could do.
but let's say that was the case. Who else could do Reed?
I don't know. I think that there's a lot of options. I remember when they were talking about rumors, they had Penn Badgley as one of them, and I thought that he would have been perfect.
Oh,
I think he has the
yeah,
look. I think he has the kind of like body type for it, which I think is important. I mean, I know physicality is important. I always say that, and I think that was a hard one for me for Pedro is because Pedro definitely has like a square face, and that's like
yeah,
not how I picture Reed at all. I picture him incredibly slender. It's kind of like his whole thing, right? But
yeah.
I don't know. That's
But
neither here nor there.
also Penn is 38 years old.
So he's more around the same age as Vanessa Kirby. I think that works, right? Um,
It would be great to see Penn too, because I think Penn is great.
he was my big pick. If they weren't going to have Glenn Howerton play him, then, which would never happen in a million years, I can't
No,
imagine Glenn Howerton of Always Sunny in Philadelphia signing on to a 10-year Disney Studios deal that wasn't his Hulu deal that I think he has right now, right? Like I'm sure he has something with Hulu, right? Well, he has something with
yeah,
FX which is encapsulated.
for
Yeah.
for always sunny.
Yeah.
But
He would have been a really good pick.
he would have been
He could have
a
been
really
my
good
maker.
pick.
But see, Penn Bagley would have been a fantastic maker as well too, because he has that. He does that duality really well. I'm basing it mostly off of the You show, Netflix, but that was kind
Yeah,
of one. It's like, oh, he's got a dark side to him that would really work.
he
But
does. He could, but I mean, if they did want to do a swoop in and change, and Penn's the right guy.
yeah,
The
who's
other
yours?
thing
You asked
for
me who was your pick.
oh, I had no pick, but I remember talking about Penn with you and
Yeah,
Cody a while back, and yeah, Penn is. I agree. Penn is just a
he was always my
would have
pick,
been a great choice.
unfortunately. But whatever. We get what we get.
True, but to also like bring it back, I went back and I went for
Oh.
the Hickman Fantastic Four
Mm-hmm.
because obviously it's really good.
It is really good.
Uh, and just going back and reading and looking at that and seeing what could be pulled because I think they will try to pull some stuff from more recent than past.
Right. They do a good. They
I
usually
don't.
do a good job of doing a little bit of both. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And with this Hickman run, one thing that I noticed that I hear a lot of speculation of, and I hear them not talking about it, is Sue being pregnant.
Right.
And I don't think she's pregnant at all. But I think it's a good speculation for people to have to be more invested. But I think they're trying to avoid that for right now and
Yes.
then get them into a stable universe.
Yeah.
Cause, right, I think it would be too much to have her be pregnant, have her go through stuff, and then, immediately, like, you're losing your world. We're throwing you into Doomsday, and then we're throwing you into Secret Wars.
Yeah. All while
And
being partially pregnant for part of it, and then a like new mother and them being new parents. I think there's a possibility. I've seen a lot of speculation about them potentially doing that, even with the name of the show. I mean, the name of the film being First Steps, which I think
yeah,
there could be merit to it. You know what I mean? But I, I think it could go either way. I think it would also be too soon. Um, I think that if you
I
want
didn't
to
want to do
establish,
this.
huh?
I didn't want to do this, but what if, Malkovich is Franklin from the future?
That's very possible. Because I was thinking that there's speculations on who John Malkovich is, right?
Yeah.
I've seen some wild ones. I think that he's Reed's dad. I think that he's Nathaniel. He could be Franklin. Because Franklin, there's old Franklin Richards in that, right? In the Hickman run, right? Yeah.
There's future, Franklin who comes back in time to warn them.
Yeah. And he kind of has that look to him. He kind of looks like he's doing a Nathaniel Richards who also kind of looks like that. It's kind of like that. There's a reference to that where Reed's son from the future is almost playing a similar role to Reed's dad.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure. Uh, I, I'm still up for like John Malkovich being whoever John Malkovich is. Natasha Lyonne is in here as well, which I don't think I knew about. Just found that out recently.
Yeah, I'm hoping she's Alicia Masters. Um, that's kind of my pick. I know that
I'll be
like
honest.
they made Alicia Masters black in the originals. And I think that was a cool thing, and then I think that kind of bled into stuff in the comics moving forward after that. But um, I think that she would be a good pick. Um, I think that if she's the love interest for that Ben Grimm, I think would be really cool. I think that
True.
they would have a good dynamic.
I think so too. And the interesting thing is going from here on out, especially with these next big movies, is you're going to see, in my opinion, I truly believe you're going to see a lot of people start showing up, start having maybe bit parts or bit importances, maybe important relationships, so they could kill them. Because
Right.
there's going to need to be a lot of people to end up dying in Doomsday and in
Yeah.
Secret Wars.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot that you want to cut down, and obviously they're not going to want to cut down a lot of their main cast
Right.
because you already lost Scarlet, you already lost Cap, you already lost Iron Man, you already
Yeah.
lost. I'm not sure about no Hawkeye's still around, but you still
Yeah.
got like there's a lot of people who are not really there.
There anymore.
And,
Well,
yeah,
I think the stakes of those movies are going to be high, and I think it'll be interesting to see how they do that. The Doomsday movie, I don't even know what the plot is supposed to be. It's just that Doom is going to be in it. I think that's what's frustrating as well, is that it kind of feels like, well, we know that it feels rushed because it kind of is, because it's a replacement movie for a different one.
yep,
And so it's
yep,
kind of,
entirely.
I almost wish that they just wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, if the story is
Right.
not there, if they're just replacing Kang with Doom and they're just going to do the same movie, I don't think it's going to work, but whatever.
Nah, it's gonna be interesting. It'll be what it is.
My excitement for
But
Fantastic Four is high.
okay, good. Assignment for Fantastic Four is high. Mine is there.
It is there.
I can't
Okay.
I can't say it's high, but it is there. So yeah, I guess we will be watching when it comes out.
Yeah, 100%. It comes out this year, right?
Checking in.
July?
It comes out 14 days after Superman.
Oh, that's gonna be a fun month. Hell yeah.
Superman is the 11th, and the 25th is for Fantastic Four.
I'm really hoping that in that month I will be saying we're so back. But
Oh man,
it might be it's so over. I think it's gonna be we're so back, but there's a possibility. Maybe I'll say it for one and not the other. Either way, it's nice to get
I
some variety.
true. I would hope to say that we're back as well because it would be nice to see things get back on track, movie wise, story wise, for these type of things. Because
Yeah.
I just want me some good ass stories again.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
uh, then well, I guess with that it will be up until next time. Maybe there'll be intro next time. Maybe there won't be intro next time.
Yeah,
Also,
so
maybe it'll go in order
yeah, for context, in
eventually.
case that context gets lost in the sauce, the last episode that we recorded, I said that the next episode I'm gonna have an intro for us. And then I didn't, but I'm not beholden to that because that episode didn't come out yet.
That is
So
true.
maybe the next episode after that one that actually gets aired in that order, we'll have an intro. In the meantime, though,
Maybe,
I'll leave you
maybe.
with this. It's fantastic.
Say that again.
Hey
All right, then, man.
man, thank you. Thanks guys.
Oh yeah, thanks, people. I keep forgetting about other stuff. This is what happens when you introverted and extroverted introvert sometimes. I don't even think about things.
Yeah.
It is what it is. All right.
Ben loves you all, I promise.
Nah.